This week's US CQM Forecast Alert is a 25 basis point cut in policy rate at the FOMC meeting on December 17 would be appropriate. This week, in addition to our usual weekend forecast, we made a forecast on December 8th that updated only the November employment statistics. As seen in the December 8th forecast, the November employment divides the economic growth rate on both the expenditure and income sides upwards, but the subsequent indicators such as November CPI and PPI divide them downwards. As can be seen from the overall graph, the economy began to expand in November, but has stabilized at about 2.5% growth rate in December. Inflation slowed down until mid-November, but has since begun to rise slowly to a growth rate of 2% to 3%. PCA revised its economic growth rate upward to 1.95% due to the November employment update, but then revised it downward to 1.83% due to the November CPI and PPI. The GDP price deflator was revised upward to 2.73% in the November CPI and PPI update. The patterns of change in economic growth rate and inflation are similar to those of CQM forecasts. This is a comparison of the economic forecast based on appropriate monetary policy by the Federal Reserve at the September FOMC meeting with the CQM and PCA forecast. Since the current economy is in line with the Fed prediction, it does not appear necessary for the Fed to change the policy interest rate at the FOMC meeting on the December 17th and 18th. All of these growth rates are from 1 year ago. According to CQM forecasts, the economic growth rate for 2025 Q1 is low at around 1.0% and is on a downward trend. A cut in the policy interest rate would be favorable. Inflation is showing signs of a slight upswing, but the growth rate is just slightly above 2%. To prevent an economic slowdown, the Fed can accept a cut in the policy rate. However, we need to see whether or not the upward trend of inflation is going forward. Therefore, it would be preferable for the Fed to limit the cut in policy rate to 25 basis points at the FOMC meeting on December 17 and 18. Conclusion from this week's US CQM Forecast Alert. Based on the CQM forecast for the economy in 2025 Q1, a 25 basis point cut in policy rate seemed to be appropriate at the FOMC meeting on December 17 and 18. This slide contains additional information about this week's detailed CQM forecast.